There's a popular story in the book of Genesis that you may have never fully understood until now. Let me show you, because in Genesis 39, when Potiphar's wife falsely accused Joseph of trying to sleep with her, Potiphar then put Joseph in prison for a crime that he never committed. But here's the thing, because I've always wondered if Potiphar eventually found out that his wife was lying to him. And I believe he did. And in the clip that you're about to see, I show you directly from scriptures why, even though he eventually discovered that Joseph was innocent, Joseph still had to stay in prison. I want you to check it out, and I also share some amazing insights from Joseph's encounter with the chief cupbearer that you don't want to miss. Because even though Joseph helped him, the cupbearer forgot about him. And we have to thank God, because the amazing thing is your good deeds are never forgotten. They're only stored. Check out this clip and I'll see you guys in a bit. He put them in the same prison where Joseph was confined. So this wasn't like proper jail. You would say like this was like kind of like house arrest. But guess what? It says that the captain of the guard, who we know to be Potiphar, assigned these high-profile prisoners to Joseph. Now remember, the Pharaoh is the one who sent these guys. For Potiphar to assign them to Joseph. Would you assign him to Joseph if you truly believe that he was trying to sleep with your wife? Remember, he trusted Joseph enough to put him in charge of everything he had. If he truly believed that Joseph was trying to sleep with his wife, that trust would have been broken. But guess what? Two high-profile prisoners come into your house, and you trust the one who was trying to sleep with your wife to take charge of them? It couldn't have been possible. So it's very, very plausible that Potiphar eventually discovered that his wife was lying and that Joseph was actually innocent. Remember, Potiphar is the captain of the guard. Like I said yesterday, he was like the defense minister. Do you know how many liars he would have been exposed to over the years? So yes, his wife told him this. He reacted instead of responding, sends Joseph to prison. But I'm sure by the time he calmed down, he then goes to his wife and is like, what actually happened? Okay, let me hear your story. Then he goes to Joseph and he's like, let me hear your story. And now he's like, this woman's story isn't gelling, man. What do you mean that he tried? Like, let's even check out what he said again. Verse 14. It says, he came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. And when he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. That story doesn't make sense. When he heard you scream, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. Like, it don't make sense. But guess what? When he would have asked Joseph would be like, man, master, I didn't want to see anything, but, she has been trying it for days. She tried it on this day. I told her, no, I can't do such a sinful and wicked thing against God. Like, I tried my best, man. And all of a sudden, like, when I came into the house on this day, like, she just dragged me. She pulled my cloak, and when I saw that she had it, I just ran away. Which story sounds more believable? Potiphar is a trained guy, remember, he's the captain of the guard. So at this point, he's like, this guy is saying the truth. But unfortunately, remember what his wife did? She called everybody. Like, look at what this guy has done. So it means that news had gone around the house that Joseph was trying to sleep with his wife. So if Potiphar had restored Joseph, it would have been obvious that his wife was lying. So he probably kept Joseph there to protect not just his wife, but his ego. But guess what? Even though he knew Joseph was innocent, that bridge was already burnt. That bridge was already burnt. There was nothing he could do. And a lot of the times, we need to thank God for the bridges that he burnt. We need to thank God for the bridges that he burnt to prevent us from going back to the places that God has taken us from. That heartbreak that you were like, my goodness, this stuff hurt. It hurt that bad to prevent you from going back Because if it didn't hurt that bad, you may have gone back and spent another 5 years that would have still produced the same result. It is why even when the Israelites crossed the Red Sea, he closed up the Red Sea, because even if they decide, I'm not interested anymore, you can't go back. The Red Sea has been closed. So there are a lot of bridges that have been burnt that are for our good, to ensure that we don't go back to our mess. Then it says that after they had been in custody for some time, so this investigation was taking a lot of time, right? It says each of the two men, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were being held in prison, had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. That in 3 days, something was going to happen. Verse 6 says, when Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw that they were dejected. He saw that they were dejected. Think about this. Joseph had his own problems. He had just been sold by his brothers. He had worked his way up in Pharaoh's household. Someone has lied against him. Now he has gone back to where he started. And even though everybody knows that he's innocent, he still can't get back. This is where it would have been the perfect opportunity to throw a pity party, where he's just focusing on himself. But remember, nothing happens to you because everything is happening for you. Joseph had the right mindset that regardless of what has happened to me, all things are working out together for my good. Right? So when Joseph comes the next morning, he's not focusing on himself. He's still aware to see that two people are looking dejected. Two people in his custody. Remember, he was responsible. They were assigned to him. So regardless of how you feel, I'm still responsible for you. So he sees them looking dejected. And so he asks Pharaoh's officials. And there's a lot in here. There's a lot in here. There's a lot in here. Because how many of us are missing out on the opportunities that have been positioned to elevate us simply because we are throwing a pity party? Simply because we have the wrong mindset. We are thinking that everything keeps happening to me. Not the perspective of how is this happening for me? Every morning, every morning, that's my prayer. Nothing happens to me today because everything is happening for me. So even when things that happen that look disappointing, I'm like, it makes me question. I'm like, how is this thing happening for me? Right? Think about everything you've been through in your life. Everybody can come up with a pity party story of why nothing seems to be working out for you. Switch it. Ask yourself that question. How is this situation that doesn't seem to be working out for me actually working out for me? I shared with you guys a few days ago how I was addicted to pornography for over 10 years. Guess what? How did that situation, as bad as it was, how is it happening for my good? Now God has empowered me to be able to free people who were once bound like I was. That's how you shift your mindset. No matter how bad things are, the moment you shift it to how is God working this out for my good, it creates new paths. And it helps you to take the focus off of yourself and refocus on others. You begin to see the opportunities that are around you. You begin to see areas where you can add value. I want us to put ourselves in Joseph's shoes right now. God has revealed something. He has shared it. I love that dream weaver. He used to teach us a very, very fantastic lesson. Do not put your hope in people. Men will fail you. Can you imagine, like the chief cupbearer, someone had just helped you and he forgot about him. Do not put your hope in man. Only put your hope in God. But here's one thing that I picked up here. Your good deeds are never forgotten. They're only stored. as I said that, I saw the word he restored. There's a connection there. Your good deeds are never forgotten. They are only stored. And when it's your time, what has been stored gets restored. Woo! Wow! Whoa! He has only stored them, and I did a video about this. Think of Mordecai and Esther. Mordecai and Esther. Let's go there real quick. This Esther chapter 6, verse 1 to 3. Woo! Now, this is what it means, yeah, when your time has come. Because the good things that you've done, they're not forgotten, man. God has just stored them for the right moment, for your harvest. You see, it's a seed. When you plant a seed, you forget it because you can't see it. So, Esther 6. That night, the king could not sleep, so he ordered the book of the Chronicles, the record of his reign, to be brought in and read to him. And it was found recorded. Something had been stored. It was found recorded there that Mordecai had exposed Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway, who had conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. And remember how it says that night the king could not sleep. When it's your time, kings will not sleep. Oh. People will not forget. He could not sleep. When it is your time, people will be restless until you are served. He now says, you know what, bring me the book of the Chronicles. Another translation says the book of remembrance. And how coincidental is it that out of all the books, this was the book that was picked? Out of all the stories, this was the one that was picked. And as the king is listening, it's like, wow, somebody actually saved my life. Can you imagine somebody saved the king's life and was never honored for it, was never recognized for it? Your good deeds are never forgotten. They're only stored. That's going to help someone today who you feel like you've been doing the right thing. You've been doing the right thing. Nobody is affirming you. No one is recognized. No one is even saying, wow, well done. God sees you. God sees you. The enemy wants you to break character. God sees you. He's going to reward what you are doing in private, in public, when the time is right. Keep going. Keep going. King Xerxes says, what honor and recognition has Mordecai received for this? Said nothing has been done for him. What? The king said, who is in the court? Remember, if you read this story, Haman was coming to kill Mordecai. That day was the day he wanted to kill Mordecai. Oh man, this story, like, if you ever read Esther, oh my goodness. And the king is like, who is in the court? Just as Mordecai is on his way, God is giving a message. God has made a king restless enough to ask for a story to be told. And the story that is being told is concerning the man that Haman is going to kill that day. It says, who is in the court? Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the palace to speak to the king about impaling Mordecai on the pole he had set up for him. Can you imagine this? And his attendant answered, Haman is standing in the court. Bring him in, the king ordered. When Haman entered, the king asked him, what should be done? Kai! The verse that comes to my mind right now is Psalm 23. And I shall prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. What? When you wait for God's timing, I promise you, God has a sense of humor. I love that. Can you imagine that? The king is now asking the one who wants to kill you, what should we do for this man? For the man the king delights to honor. What? The king wants to honor and is delights in it. You can't say anything. Now Haman thought to himself, who is there that the king would rather honor than me? So he answered the king, for the man the king delights to honor. Look, if he had known he was Mordecai, right, he wouldn't have said this. But because he thought it was him, he gave a recommendation that was fit for himself. He said, have them bring a royal robe the king has worn and a horse the king has ridden, one with a royal crest placed on his head. Then let the robe and horse be entrusted to him, to one of the king's most noble princes. And let them robe the man the king delights to honor and lead him on the horse through the city streets, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. Verse 10, go at once, the king commanded him, and get the robe and the horse and do just as you have suggested for Mordecai, the Jew who sits at the king's gate. Whew, I would do anything to picture this scene. I would do anything to picture this scene happen in real time. What was his reaction? I've just come to ask for permission to kill this guy that you've now told me to honor. Amazing, amazing. When your book of remembrance, when all your good deeds, the things that God has told you to do, moments where you could have fallen into temptation, moments when you could have broken character, moments when you could have done things that you shouldn't be doing, but you still stood your ground. No, I'm gonna stay faithful. It's not forgotten. It's only being stored. It's only being stored. I want us to pray tonight, because there are some of you who you are in your season of remembrance. You are in your season of remembrance. Not everybody. There are some people, you are currently in the season where you are being forgotten. You need to pray for strength to stay faithful to the end. There are some of you who are in your season of remembrance. The people that are supposed to remember you are not remembering. You need to declare today that the windows of heaven open upon you. Remember me. May they not sleep until they have remembered me. You know, if you really enjoy this, then there's a lot more where that came from. But more importantly, I want to teach you how you can begin to study the Bible for revelation and not just read it for information, because I believe that God also wants to share his secrets with you. And so if today isn't a Sunday, I would love to invite you to our live Bible study sessions, which are happening every single day between 5 to 6 p.m. EST on YouTube and TikTok. And so I'm hoping to see some of you later this evening. Until then, I'll see you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.